Shalom and welcome to People on the Path. My name is Adam Lowy, and I am the lifelong learning Moreh Derech at Congregation Beth Sholom. Each month, I will welcome dynamic guests to discuss, learn, and consider what it means to be on the path. How does an individual's choices impact their path? How do the various communities that an individual participates in change their lives forever? What unsuspecting moments became the powerful ones that inform personal and professional journeys? Where does one's relationship to their own Jewish identity take surprising turns, and how does it spiritually manifest? I intend for the conversation to be intimate, unscripted, and informal. The possibilities and potential will be infinite. The directions, ways, and paths will be explored, discovered, and open. So please come take a walk with me as we welcome Shabbat with people on the path. So today, as you know, this has become a bit of the routine. Before I bring in our guest, I'd like to check in with Rabbi Ain. So Rabbi Ain, could you turn your camera on? Shalom,
Yeah.
Rabbi Ain.
Yeah. Hi. All right,
Hi.
let's go.
Hi. I know you're excited for this one. And I'm very excited as well. And I just feel it's important because of our sort of disconnect from the community to get a little bit of how's the rabbi doing. So I want to ask you how you're doing, but more specifically, how have you been able to bring joy into a dar as we near, like, let's be real here. This is the anniversary of the pandemic, right? Purim was when it all hit last year, right? Everybody was like, are we still going to do the Purim events? Are we going to do them? And then everybody kind of in one fell swoops canceled.
You wanted joy here? You wanted me to give you joy? You're not helping. Yeah.
So how did you do it? Are you able to? How are you bringing joy in a dar right now?
So it's hard. I think it's hard. I think the anniversary of the whole thing sort of hit me unexpectedly harder than I was expecting. And I don't like it anymore. I'm over COVID. But as the senior rabbi here at Beth Sholom, I have to be a dugma. I have to be a good example. And so my family and I, we take all of the precautions. We know that we're an example of healthy living and safe living, but it's hard. And I took this job and went into this profession to be with people and to hug people and to embrace people. And I don't believe that our intellect or our words are as important as our presence. So that is really hard. And, all of the different simchas that we normally have around these times, they're really watered down. And we do the best that we can, and you do an amazing job with the kids, and we're going to have a great program tomorrow night, but it's not the same. So that's, you wanted simcha. How do I bring in simcha? Really?
It's okay. It's okay.
No, it's all right. You asked how I was. Nobody ever asked how I am, so that's great. Simcha is really through the joy of the kids, my children. Even something I thought I wouldn't love doing, like playing video games. Like, I'm sort of anti-video games and whatnot, just in general. Tactile is good, but like my kids, it's just sitting with them playing video games can be really fun and a nice distraction. And as sort of ambivalent as I am about those things in general, my son is very excited to come and sit on my lap and play video games with me. And so that is really joyful. So thank you for asking.
Thank you for sharing. I feel like that's the challenge of the day is how to almost kind of magnify those small joys that will fill the space for those giant joys that aren't really accessible, like going on a vacation somewhere far and tropical and warm, or just something like that. So I feel like the task is to recognize the moments of when your son's on your lap, and that's a pretty sweet one. That's a pretty sweet one.
That's
So
right.
thank you for sharing that.
Oh, thank you. And I'm
Um,
really looking forward to this conversation with Sarah. I think you're a genius for how you time this out. I mean, I know we're going to publish it this weekend. We have Purim coming up. I had the privilege of knowing Sarah since I moved to San Francisco and the amazing work that she's doing. So I'm very excited to get to know more about her. And I'll shut my camera off, but you'll let me back in to say a few words and ask a few questions later, I'm sure,
I
right?
certainly will.
All
Thank
right.
you.
All right. Take care.
All right, Toda, Rabbi Ain. It's my honor to welcome this month's guest, Sarah Waxman. Sarah, do you want to open up your camera for us? Sarah,
Hi,
welcome. I'm just
thank
going to read your
you.
bio real quick, okay? Sarah is the passionate founder of At the Well. She has been a student of sociology and holistic medicine, a national champion athlete, an instructor of yoga and mindfulness, and an actively engaged member of the Jewish community. All these experiences gave her a deep understanding of the power that comes from being in a supportive community, feeling connected to your spirituality, and having a real understanding of your cycle. At the Well was created out of love. It is a place to be witnessed and to witness others, to share, to learn, and a place to connect Jewish heritage to everyday life. After being selected for a leadership fellowship, Sarah launched At the Well with Moishe House as her fiscal sponsor. Sarah, welcome to People on the Path.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me. It's nice to walk with you.
I'm really looking forward to this conversation. And as I said to Rabbi Ain, happy Adar. And how are you? And more specifically, I'm going to kind of throw the same question at you that I threw to Rabbi Ain, which is, how are you bringing the joy into Adar as we are our first anniversary together with pandemic?
Yeah. Um, I haven't really totally sat with the anniversary yet, but I'm going to do that because I did make Hamantashen with my family last year on Purim. That was the last thing we did together. Um, but I think that there's a lot of grief in the world right now, and we need to honor it. And also, there's been moments in our people's history where there's been unbelievable grief. And still the commandment is to bring joy, to give gifts to your friends, at least two, to give to communities in need, at least two, to feast and to hear the story. And those all definitely make me feel joyous, and I'm going to do them. And by the time this is launched on the website, I will have already done them. And I'm finding joy in the inheritance of resilience, like of inheriting the Jewish people. Yes, it comes with a lot of other stuff. And there's a whole conversation about the trauma and about the heaviness and also resilience. And so I'm actually finding joy from being named for and being part of a people who have always been resilient, and in this month commanded to increase joy at every cost. So I'm sort of imploring us all to really lean into that commandment as much as we can, even if you do no other commandments for the rest of the year. Why not try this one?
I love that. I love that, inheriting resilience. That's a brilliant concept amongst all the other stuff that we've inherited, right?
Yeah.
It's
not my original thought. It's definitely part of justice movements and part of how people might consider their life of service to be part of something. But certainly the stories that I've inherited through Judaism have always been, at the end of the day, of resilience.
All right, so Sarah, we're going to jump into a number of things today, I hope. And I think that what I would like to just have you start with is tell us a little bit about At the Well, like break down what is At the Well for people who are listening on the path today who aren't familiar with the organization.
Yeah. At the Well is a network of women around the world that are using transformative practices rooted in Jewish wisdom, meaning we're a network. So we're a valued-based system of connecting individuals or local communities together that are all using Jewish wisdom as a strategy to feel good and to transform their lives. We have people all over the world. Our main strategy for this transformative work is through the ritual of Rosh Chodesh, which means new moon. And at the well's interpretation of that first commandment from God to mark the moon of Nisan and all the moons thereafter is that we use that marking of time to come together and be in beloved community together, create belonging with each other. And we inherited from rabbis in the medieval times that it was a women's holiday. And so at the well specifically focus is on people who identify as a woman or people who are in bodies that are menstruating or will go through cycles on the planet, and honoring that time as an important time to come together to talk about our bodies and the things in life that happen, all the celebrations, all the sadnesses, and use Rosh Chodesh as a time to create connection to our bodies, to our spiritual practices, specifically Judaism, and to each other in belonging.
Lovely. Thank you. That sounds delightful. It sounds uplifting, rejuvenating, refreshing, and just a space to grow, which I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
And Mazal Tov on taking it the way you did, because I understand that there wasn't a ton of resources available when you started kind of on this path.
If it was easy, somebody else would have done it. And At the Well is working towards wholeness and defining what our concept of Jewish wellness might be, wholeness of shleimut, and really striving for that with each other. And in that is storytelling, and in that is witnessing, and is using Jewish time as a way to root into the range of emotions that we have. But yeah, it was a grassroots movement. It started just with me, 3.5 years as a volunteer before it was a paid thing. It started with a check from my grandparents who knew that I was always a pioneer in some sets, but never was really able to spell correctly. And so they were like, "You really need a copy editor, Sarah. If you're going to do this, you need a little bit of help." And leaned on my friends and family, and then grew it. And now I'm grateful to have support even from people in the Beth Sholom community, which is how we connected to you all, and then also institutional funders, and we're growing. I think that there's a lot of opportunity for investment in a great idea here with remembering that the first commandment is to mark the moon, because the difference between being a slave and a free person is our own ownership of time. And as Jewish people, we are free people. And that this marking of time, this new moon celebration, is not some hippie woo-woo thing. It is the first thing God says to do as a way of being in relationship with our ancestors and with what our potential is as humans. So I think Rosh Chodesh is there. I started at the well, literally, because there was never a book that was written in English about Rosh Chodesh in my lifetime. And there has never been an organization to help adult women create Rosh Chodesh circles ever. And so it needed to happen. And, we were talking about Pesher, or on time moments, to this call, because Queen Esther has a lot to do with me finding the courage to walk that walk and bring it forward.
Awesome. So, all right. So that's perfect, because we're going to get to the why this happened. I assume that many of your interviews about At the Well become about At the Well, like the why, the how, the when, and the what we do, right? And today, that's not what I'm hoping to do with you.
You want to know me.
I want to know, but like this program is about like how you got to this moment in time. And so I want to explore that path, and again, you can correct me from what I kind of learned about the actual numbers, but I was about 5+ years ago that you founded this organization that's become profound and has had a worldwide impact on the lives of Jewish women. And I'm also going to venture to say that it's impacted plenty of Jews that are not women, because of the experience that the women are having. And I'm assuming that it's impacted people who are not Jewish as well. So 5 years ago or so that happened, but I'm going to take us way back. So tell us, what was your life like growing up? Like, where were you born and raised?
I was born in Washington, D.C. to some amazing parents and a long family of love and investments in next generation. Judaism was at the center of my family. We went to the conservative synagogue in DC. Shout out to Addis, Israel, which I'm so proud to be from. And I grew up going to Quaker school. We were the one and only kosher family at the Quaker school, which is an interesting thing about how I got here, because keeping kosher in a secular world, you're confronted with your Jewish identity and what you believe in and your values constantly all day long with everyone that you ever eat with. And so it makes you reflect on it at an early age. And actually, I think that one even ritual, that one law, that one boundary around my childhood kept me here. And I think, the conservative movement has always been an advocate for that one ritual, as being a line in the sand that might distinguish Jewish people or someone on their path or on their walk, if it's right for the family. And that's the family that I was raised in. But yeah, I'm the daughter of constitutional lawyers and progressive DC, legal types who produced me, and I'm their like spiritual feeler, sort of athlete daughter. So always been a pioneer in different ways. I'm the first person in my family to ever play, competitive sports at Division I level, and I don't know if there will be another one for a little bit.
Yeah.
But that actually has something to do with my Judaism as well, because I was the only Jewish person there. So I was confronted with that as well.
Yeah, I had a feeling. I also have a pretty intense relationship to sport and athletics, and so I totally get the spirituality that exists in that world, and I want to ask you about that. First, a national champion athlete. Tell us more about that. Like what sport? How did that happen? And how are you a national champion athlete?
Perhaps I was born for this moment is the reoccurring theme of this call. Which is a line from Esther and that famous line from Mordechai. I have extremely good hand-eye coordination, surprisingly good hand-eye coordination. And I have always been interested in sports, and that sort of self-expression of my power and of what I can do, and being part of a team certainly is a spiritual thing, because it makes me connect to something bigger than myself and within myself. I was the goalkeeper in the women's lacrosse team at Penn, and I can't say exactly how I got there. I was a really sick kid. So sick kids don't run down and up and down the field, and ended up getting put in goal. And turns out I was pretty good at it, and ended up being recruited and invited to play at Penn, and took the opportunity to go to an amazing school and an amazing program. And during my tenure there, ended up being the 2-time national goalkeeper of the year, my junior and my senior years, which was, yeah, I know, what? Like, I'm also kind of like, what?
It's amazing.
That's what happens when you have brothers, and you have the theme of resilience and persistence that runs through you for generations.
Right.
I will say there was like a disproportionate amount of the women goalies, disproportionate amount of the goalies were Jewish.
Really?
Which there might be some sort of sociology to experience about that. Like, do not mess with me, and I got this. Like, I got us. You all go to your thing. And the end of the day, I literally got this. But yeah, so there's that. And I think in terms of leadership, like, being a goalie is a unique position on a team. You have your own role. And it actually ended up being, there was a time where our team wasn't really that good when I got recruited, and we got really good. It wasn't just me, it was a whole team. I'm part of one. Everything is connected on a team. Everything is connected in the world. We're Jews, so we believe that. But I'll just share this one story, which is that we kept on winning, and it was a surprise. And then we were like the Cinderella team, and then they scheduled a really important game on the second night of Passover. And I was like, "What? You all I can't play on this game. Like, I have to go to Seder." And my coach was like, "What?" And then she called the Chabad at the other, because we were traveling. So I had called the other team to see if there was a Seder I could go to after, but it was at Penn State, and there wasn't really a Seder that I could go to. And I wasn't gonna be able to get back after the game to go to, there's this whole thing. So I called my grandmother, and I was like, "Bubby, what do I do?" And she was like, "Are you the only one in that position?" And I was like, "I am the only goalie that can play in this game." and we're winning. She's like, you have all these people relying on you? And I was like, I have all these people relying on you. She's like, okay, then don't come to Seder and bring your own dishes. So I brought a cooler of my separate dishes to Penn State and did Passover on the road. And I think you're asking about what kind of moments made you who you are. And that moment is definitely in who I am, about my commitment to each other and people that I say that I'll show up for, and also my commitment to my ancestors and to being Jewish.
That's an amazing story. Thank you for sharing that. I all these images of you playing are flashing through my mind, and then of course did you like do that like right at the field? You like pulled out your dishes, or did you like at least like did you go somewhere when you brought out your Seder? And it was
no, I didn't carry a whole Seder. I just like carried my kosher for Passover wear.
I see.
I had a little cooler. There was it takes a commitment to do that, and also an invitation from the people around you to welcome it. I do think that everyone remembered that I carried my own dishes because it's at the post-game dinner at the Italian food restaurant.
And so was asking your bubby, basically getting her blessing, was that a kind of a critical part of deciding to play?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I needed to have her buy-in. But also I'm the kind of person who likes to build consensus. I actually don't have any idea ever. I just like to ask a lot of people their opinions and then deduce it and try to find where my truth or my emet is. And that's how my leadership unfolds with At the Well. And that's how I sort of make big decisions in my life, is to talk to a lot of people. And so I definitely needed to talk to my grandmother. And I just really can't imagine myself feeling whole, which is everything that I'm working on now, for people to have a felt sense of wholeness. I don't think I could have felt whole in that decision without having a conversation with my grandmother. And at least I didn't need to work that hard. She's the one that really helped me, but to get consensus and buy-in about the way that we might live our life.
So was this Bubby, would you kind of classify her as the matriarch that was like holding the Jewish experience for your kind of extended family, like ritual, and was that how it worked in your family, or would you describe it somehow differently?
I honestly think that my family is really co-shared and co-owned. There's not one person holding it down. It's really this invitation of they had roles. I mean, they were, my grandparents, I'm 34, so they were of an era. And my grandmother did certain roles and my grandfather did a certain roles, but there was no doubt that there was an unwavering love of Judaism, and also was the secret super glue of my family and the way that we interacted with each other and had this depth of connection through intergenerations.
That's it sounds like you were in many, what I'm going to say, very fortunate communities.
Yeah, I talk about having a family and a spiritual or Jewish community that did an amazing job with helping me wrestle with Judaism for myself and have a long life commitment of that. So that got me to have a really healthy relationship with my Judaism and my identity, and where it is just part of me and oozes out of me, and where it helps define how I choose and what I choose to do with my life. And I don't think that my generation all shares that. So that's a big impetus of my work, is to try to be that well and that spring that we say that Torah is. If I can do that, and if At the Well could be the well and a spring for other people, then that's an amazing ripple into the world.
That's beautiful. And again, I'm gonna just kind of bring us back to this notion, because for me, I see the team experience and in being successful with others as a feeling that I've had also in totally non-athletic Jewish experiences of community, right? This notion of that it everything worked, right? It's like this beautiful dance, and it all comes together, and everybody is in the groove and doing their part to bring the jubilation or to win the game. And so how early did you realize that you were kind of a trailblazer / leader, and how did kind of the success of being a leader on an athletic team find its way into being a leader of Jewish community? And is it something that you were like conscious of, that like you were taking things from that experience and bringing them to the other side, or vice versa? Do you see them as intersecting all the time? How do you?
I think I found my pioneering just by being in my household and being the one that was, slightly asking slightly different questions than my brothers, or, I basically went to law school at my dinner table. Between Judaism and being the daughter of constitutional lawyers, you really have a sort of debate. And I was always the person being like, well, how do you feel? I'm like, let's talk about it. What's really going on with you? And so I do think that I had a sense of being slightly pioneering, at least in my family, in an early age. But sports is the place I found leadership, like no doubt. I mean, we could go on a whole thing about how important it is to have kids and people in general just be part of something that's bigger than themselves and be part of building with. I mean, belonging happens when you have a group of people who commit to showing up and building with. And so that definitely happens through sports and teams and plays and other, opportunities for people to create together. But I ended up finding a lot of leadership there, and kudos to my coach who made us do like leadership lunches with her in my senior year. And I actually like had to do like work for my lacrosse coach outside of the team and outside of my actual schoolwork. We had to like do a course on leadership in that moment. And I learned a lot there. And I think I've just been like a leader throughout my life. And at some point I just became comfortable with it and not try to run away from it, and recognized how Jewish of an answer that is, where it's like, you keep like calling me out to do stuff. Like, what do you mean? And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, I can't run away from myself. And that happens to Moses. That happens to other people. I'm not saying that I'm those people. I think that everyone can take an action of leadership. Just so much of my work is about inspiring people to take actions of leadership. But I do think that I was born to be a leader. And so I'm taking that on, at least in this moment in time when I have the energy to do this type of work.
Yasher koach, that you are willing and wanting, right, and embracing that, right? That's that can be daunting when you realize that this
For
is
sure.
It's almost a responsibility that you've found.
I have a deep sense of responsibility, but it wasn't always towards the Jewish world. I was working in other spaces, and I feel that when I start working towards something, I really feel responsible for it. I want to be part of it. I want to be attached. I want to create, and I want to be part of creating, sort of filling in the broken spots. And I was applying that Jewish idea to other avenues, and it wasn't until my mid-20s when I, through a bizarre sequence of events, discovered some rituals in Judaism that I had never been taught, but were about women, for women. And I ended up using the mikvah to heal from 20 years of an eating disorder, as a way of reconnecting my body to my soul and my mind, and using the healing water of the mikvah to help me transform from being in a tough spot to being in an integrated spot. I say it was bizarre because I wasn't involved in the Jewish world at all. And I got a random call from the mikveh attendant at the Adas Israel synagogue to come be part of a program for teenage girls and their moms to use the mikveh as a place to go to before their bat mitzvahs, and to help them create this program. And someone called me because they thought that I'd be a good person for the job. They had seen me I was a teacher before I started at the well. They had seen me teach their children, and knew that my family was a member of the synagogue. So the universe called for me to be a mikvah model. And in that time, I healed myself, and I realized that there's like, what is Jewish wellness? What is healing and wholeness when it comes to Judaism? Which led me to the question of, what is Jewish spirituality? Is that even a thing that we have? And from there, it really spiraled very quickly into learning about Rosh Chodesh, learning about tracking my menstrual cycle from a religious Jewish perspective, learning about mikvah, and then beginning to author myself into a 4,000-year-old wisdom tradition that is Judaism. Because I'm a Sarah and I'm named for all my ancestors, and they told me to ask questions and to write my passage in between theirs in the space of Talmud and the space between text. So that kind of happened where I was like, whoa, there's like something here in Judaism that we're not doing. And it was 6 years this Passover that I read that line from Megillah, which I was throwing a raucous Purim party with my 31st cousins, where we all invited 10 of our friends to a warehouse in Bushwick for Purim.
Okay.
And I was charged with rewriting the Megillah. And I read that line of Mordechai going to Esther and saying, you need to save the Jewish people. And she's like, no, I can't do it. And then he says, like, perhaps you were born for this, reach this royal moment. And you were born specifically for this. And I was like, I need to do something about this void of Rosh Chodesh and this void of women writing about their bodies and their spirituality.
Fantastic. Are you going to write a book about this journey? As this is just like all these pieces are so like you have these clear moments, right? These really clear experiences. And I can tell, you and I haven't met before, but I can just tell that you are super focused human being, and that right, and that you not only remember these, but you actually, I have a feeling, go back to them as almost reminders, as like these were these moments, that this is all part of, I don't know if you would call it faith or purpose, but it just it's just, I thank you for sharing these details. Again, the mikvah model, that was what it was called. So are they still doing that program? That's so cool. We're gonna have to ask Rabbi Ain about that one, I think, in a minute. But
I think it's really, well, I just want to speak to that for a second. It's just first of all, I don't know if I'm going to write a book. I'm a person who likes to take action. So I started an organization, and instead of writing a coffee table book about, the Hebrew calendar in hopes that people would use it someday, I decided to, open source content on the internet for free as a PDF and see what happens. And then now, 5.5 years later, with 350 plus well circles in 20 countries in the world, there's something happening. And so the book will come when the book will come, but not after. I think it will happen after the work is already going. Just because I'm from Washington, D.C., and we think about our ripple of our impact in that kind of way. And that's the family that I was raised in terms of walking my walk and doing that. But yeah, I'm laser focused about it. And I think for me now, the biggest joy is waking up every day, inviting Queen Esther into the office with me, inviting the other biblical babes into the office with me, knowing their stories, rooting myself in them, knowing what time it is. It's Adar 5781. It's also February something 2021. And one of them connects me to all of my ancestors and all the future Jewish people and what's going on in sort of the world in the Northern Hemisphere right now. And one is just Roman time. They destroyed the temple. Why are we still operating under their time? I don't get it. So between the Hebrew calendar and the stories of biblical women and the reminder that there was a whole lineage of the integration of embodiment and the felt sense and the body in Judaism that we might not have been taught in American Judaism experience in the past 150 years, doesn't mean it's not there. And so those have been giving me access points to get more and more focused. And the joy for me is just building with people who want to come do this with me. And I'm not going to do it for anybody. We need to do it together for each other. And we need to be the last generation that never knew about Rosh Chodesh. We always are thinking about in our work what our immediate impact can be. But actually, our biggest impact is going to be a generation away from us. And that is really inspiring to me and to my whole team.
So I love that you bring Queen Esther with you into your work every day. And I want to acknowledge what I looked at your website and saw that you have 5 kind of core values that that kind of, I don't know, describe, or that you work towards, or that it frames at the well. And I wanted to really actually focus on courage as one. There's community, wholeness, inclusivity, joy, and then courage as well. And I had also had plans to, it's so great because I plan to ask you, like, well, so what's the connection to Esther? But that has come up many times. But can you tell us a little bit more about why courage in particular, as one of the 5?
Oh, how much time we have?
I know
First of all,
Rabbi is really getting ready to come back.
Within the context of courage and Esther, I think it's just important to shout out the other queen that's mentioned in the Megillah, which is Vashti. The story could have easily started with the beauty pageant, but it didn't. It started with Vashti, and we know her name and we know her story in detail. And it's the mistake of the rabbis to always pin them against each other, and to think that you're either or and one's good or bad. I think, dare I say, they never met each other. They didn't know each other. They were both just being courageous in their own individual moments. And so there's definitely a streak of both of them in me. And they definitely need to be mentioned in one of the mitzvahs of Purim, which is to hear their story. But when it comes to At the Well, courage is there because it needs to happen in every aspect of our work. We are having the courage to be the first organization to help adult women make Rosh Chodesh, where we have the courage to create boundaries on, or like sort of a container for Rosh Chodesh, even though it's the most lawless ritual in all of Judaism. There's no recline to the left while drinking a glass of wine on the fourth cup for Passover mentality. It's extremely unstructured. And so what we're trying to do is create structure, and that takes courage to just author yourself into it like that. Our model for our well circles is a rotating leadership model, which is like ourselves. There's not that many things in society that are asking people to hold together something and take turns being the leader. And that is pivotal to our work because it creates belonging. What we were saying before, people share the responsibility of creating it. And that lengthens our DNA strands. When we have a felt sense of belonging, it makes us live longer and live healthier lives. And so we are really encouraging that. And what comes up for people is a lot of fear, like a slew of fear. I've basically spent the past 6 years of my life talking to women every single day about one variety of fear that they have around their inability to lead a small group of women in a conversation about something to do with Judaism. And so we put courage there on purpose because it takes one phone call with someone to change them from that fear to feeling like they are brave and that they can do something and that they are the Queen Esther for this moment. And so we're asking people to take actions of leadership. And so therefore we need to have courage as an underlying thing that we're doing. And for the organization in general, just being a staff member of an organization that's as pioneering, cutting edge, and ancient as we are, in terms of really going back a long time and trying to bring it forward into this 5781 time. It requires a lot of courage from people who just wake up every day and go to work with us as well.
Sarah, if you had one sentence to say to every Jewish woman, what would it be?
Let me hold on. I only have one sentence, so I got to make it good. I think I would quote Rashi and Priki Eliezer from the medieval times, who said that because women didn't give their jewelry to build the golden calf, therefore Rosh Chodesh is an elevated women's holiday. How rabbis were asking the question, how could we build the Mishkan, which is the Torah portion we read just a couple of weeks ago, if we had already given all of our jewelry to the golden calf? And Rashi and a couple of other commentators said, well, because women were separate, they were separate because it was Rosh Chodesh, and they're the keepers of the faith. And so therefore they get Rosh Chodesh. And so I would just leave that commentary out there, and I'm curious what other people might think about the fact there is a marking of time that is for people who identify as a woman. It is not codified. So my question to people is like, okay, so what do we do about that?
Beautiful. This is perfect timing. Let's bring in the rabbi. Rabbi Ain.
Hello.
Hi.
Thank you for coming back. And I know you've been listening. I know you've been listening to the conversation. Go. What's your thoughts on?
I don't, champion goalkeeper and D1. That's it's hard to have more than just the champion goalkeeper to really that's amazing. And super impressive. So I just want to begin there. I had no idea about that. But I actually want to ask you for some help. A lot of the stuff that you're saying resonates with me and the conversations that our community has been having. And I just want to quote you back to yourself. So The people who participate in your program feel a sense of belonging. So part of it is working through their fear of Jewish or being put on the spot around Jewish or whatever that is, and then helping them through bravery and through courage and through the example of Queen Esther to feel that sense of belonging that elongates our telomeres. I adore that. Okay. And you have said that what you try to be is the well for all of these women.
And the spring.
The spring, that's right. I was getting it. The spring that your grandmother was, that a lot of grandmothers might have been, that we perhaps, and more perhaps, a lot of us have lost the connection to. Okay. I love that. I love it's beautiful. And I think I really resonate. And that's just why we've always like wanted to work together, because I totally love the consensus model working together here. And I feel like there's a potential for the Bay Area, maybe more so than some other locations, to do that. My question is, we have the same problem as you, but we need your help, because what we want to do, Adam and I, right? We're at a 100-year-old institution, okay? And that triggers people who are afraid of our institutionalness and who can project a lot of the negativity that you're rightfully trying to break away from and recapture that sense of freedom and newness, Chodesh. So how do we, as a 100-year-old synagogue, dip ourselves in the Mayim Chaim to achieve that newness so that we can embrace the people that you are embracing? What work do we need to do as a community so that we can signal to people that we're not here to tell them that they're bad Jews and they're doing this wrong and that they're have this and all of these terrible narratives that I think a lot of us might have grew up with? How, and by the way, like first of all, you're describing your experience in Bushwick with the crazy. I mean, like I was there. I wasn't at that particular event, but I was 2 warehouses down. Okay. I literally.
I was like, I don't remember, but also I was at a Purim party, so I don't know how much I remember.
100%. So I relate to that creativity, that taking the text, that making it new. And I'm excited to do that. I came here 3 years ago to take this congregation that's been around for 100 years and to bring that spirit here. And yet I meet people on the street and they say, damn you, you conservative rabbi, stop telling me what not to do. And I'm like, I didn't say anything. It's just like instant projection of baggage that's real. And you're doing such powerful work to bring people into a sense of belonging and to work through those really negative images that I think a lot of us have been born into. How do we, as a 100-year-old congregation, how can we achieve that newness so that we can embrace and give that sense of belonging to so many who don't feel it?
If it was easy, you'd be doing it, I think is my answer. And I don't wake up every day with that big problem. That's what you all are working on. So I don't have anything revolutionary here to say other than to go with people, to walk with them, to disarm them with kindness. Be there consistently, and then there will be a moment, just like Rabbi Akiva all of a sudden shows up at a well and is like, oh, the water is dripping away at the stone, and I've been here for the past 50 years every day of my life. That line in text where he like realizes that he's ready to learn. And so I think it's actually about people changing their view and their lens, and having them be ready. And also it's about the way that we organize, the language that we use, and to not be, I think, I'm over here, so it's easier said than done, but don't be afraid. The Mishkan traveled. Like it's about us creating a spiritual place together as humans, and then God will come and dwell with us. It does not say build a synagogue that's in the land and then all the people will come to it. And so redefining that and thinking about how we might be able to go beyond the building so that people then want to start coming to the building is the approach that I might take. Should I be in your shoes? But that's not the hard question that I've taken it on to sit with and wrestle with. What I do think that Apple can do for congregations, though, is exactly what Dale is learning how to do right now, and so excited about it, which is that there's so many people in the community that might want to start what we call a well circle, or might want to start a Rosh Chodesh group. And we're not talking about just running another event or program at the synagogue. We're talking about matching people who are peers and having them do it in their homes or their own Zoom rooms, co-led by them, not by us, but us being the well and the spring to inspire them to take the action of leadership to create for themselves in their communities with their people, and to invite families to start sitting on Rosh Chodesh together, either all the women in the family or all the people in the family, and learn the feminine, learn the story of Sarah, learn the story of Sarah. We read about Sarah on Rosh Hashanah. How many times are we talking about the story of Sarah actually on that day? So can we come together on Rosh Chodesh and lift up the women and the feminine within Judaism? Can we reframe what's spiritual to talk about? You know what? There's a lot of people in your synagogue, in your congregation, who've had a miscarriage, or are going through menopause, or just had their periods, or are going through life altering body things. And the house of worship and that 100-year-old synagogue and the mikveh and all the things that come with it have a space to hold those conversations that are as real as they come. And if we can own that as Judaism, because Shifra and Puah are the first people mentioned in Torah, and because there is a law around menstrual tracking and in sexual partners, if we can just go towards those things, I think more people are going to want to come and be part of all of the things that Judaism has to offer.
I love that. And I love how you expressed sort of where you come from, and constitutional lawyers, but also from a conservative background, and that was significant to you.
Yeah, and I know that what I'm saying is pretty radical. Like,
right? No, it's different. It's
invited the radical on to have a conversation. This is not even my most radical thought. My most radical thought, just want to make it out there into the world, is to reclaim halachic for myself. It is not just the Orthodox that get to say they're halachic. The word means to walk.
to be on the path.
I am on the path. I am a halachic Jew, even though I ride my car on Saturday. And I sometimes am not always in the millions of commandments that are out there, but I am in it. And I am walking my walk in 5781. And for me, this is the way that it looks. And so I'm
Amen.
halachic.
Amen. And I adore that. And I feel like the categories that get put on the institutions, we should undo them. I think when you talk about halacha and Jewish law, I mean, the movements and the denominations of American Jewish life originated in the 19th century in a response to the Enlightenment, and had everything to do with what's permitted and what's not permitted. So if you could eat shellfish, you were reformed. And if you could only use this, we decided who was in and who was out based upon our response to Jewish law. And I think that's antiquated.
You all have to have the heart conversation as the rabbis of the conservative 100-year-old synagogue, figure out where the boundaries are, and I'm giving that to you.
I'm right there with you. That is a conversation that is long overdue for our movement, and I cherish the opportunity that the congregation Beth Sholom gave me to be their senior rabbi here. I was an untraditional candidate for this position, but they understood the work that you're talking about implicitly, intuitively, in terms of opening up to new narratives. And what we've been trying to do is work through some of that.
With courage.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. Yeah, you get
but we've inherited
killed on all sides, don't you, Sarah? You just get murdered on all sides of the fence here, but you just got to keep walking the path. And that's, everything that you're saying we've been trying to do. That's why we hired Adam to be our Moreh Derech. We're trying to reach out outside of our synagogue, welcoming people in. And I think this denominational framework, and this is the last thing I'm going to say, and I'm going to leave, the denominational framework that breaks everything down based upon do's and don'ts doesn't work. Maybe in the 20th century, it's not going to work post-COVID. And I think your expression of halakha, people being on the Jewish path and finding ways to connect to those mitzvot in a way that feels freeing and connected to who they are.
It's a slight language change. That's all it is. It's an invitation to use Judaism as a strategy is a strategy for feeling good and whole in your life. And so
And
if we are still doing the Haftorah service the exact same ways that it was created when the synagogue was built, and it's not adding wholeness to people's lives, then we need to have the courage to look at it and figure out how we're either messaging this wrong, or we need to find other ways to get the message across that Judaism is a brilliant idea to help us feel whole, not happy, but whole, meaning that I can hold just what the Hebrew calendar teaches me, that in the lightest time of the year, there's destruction and darkness with, the destruction of the temple, Shabbat Av, and in the darkest time of the year, there's light and miracles with Hanukkah and things like that. Those are designed on purpose. So let's have the courage to use Jewish time to be our sanctuaries, not necessarily our buildings. And remember the Torah portion we read a couple of weeks ago about building with, and that it wanders.
that's right. That's right. And our building will be here. So wherever you might be
And we need
wandering,
it.
whenever you might be wandering, we will be here. And we just want people to know that we're here for them in the path as they choose to express it. And I really would love for us to be considered as a spring or as a well, as opposed to as some draconian thing over their heads that making them feel bad for not doing something.
Or a stop valve. We're a stop valve. Just like, we're a dam.
Anyway, thank you so much, Sarah. I adored
Thank
this.
you.
I'm
Thanks
gonna
for
let-
having me, and thanks for the
You're gonna-
work you're doing.
Thank you for everything. You're going to go into a rapid fire round here. So best of luck to you.
Okay, wow.
Chag Sameach.
Some goalie skills needed here.
Thank you. Thanks, Rabbi Ain.
Thanks, Rabbi.
All right, so Sarah, before we jump into what is the People on the Path speed round of a couple questions that I like to finish with, you gave us a tiny teaser about Dale and work that Dale's a part of with you, and just so everyone knows, I probably everyone listening knows who Dale Kleisley is as our family engagement director and associate director of the preschool. But can you just tell us real quick, Sarah, what is Dale a part of that you are supporting her, and what do you picture, or what is kind of the goal that she'll take from that kind of community of practice that she's in and bring back to our community?
Yeah, I'm so excited to know Dale and excited to work with you all in the years to come. Dale is part of a network of Jewish professionals that are bringing forward the Rosh Chodesh movement with us. So Dale is training on how we might use Rosh Chodesh as an opportunity to create belonging and to create those conversations within your families and within your peer groups. She's learning about how we might language Jewish wellness and think about how we can use some of our rituals and teachings to be more integrated in a felt sense into our bodies and to really feel it rather than always be thinking about it in our minds. And she's learning about how she can continue to use the content that we create, the radical stuff that we create that we mentioned on this call, and might be able to start organizing the bat mitzvah girls and their moms to start learning about how, if I could learn how to be with my body in the sanctuary in my synagogue as a young teenage girl, like I will have remembered that moment. It will be part of people's journeys for their whole lives. And so let's not be afraid to use the synagogue as that space to have those conversations that are really brave and courageous and honest. And Dale's learning how to do that. So I just encourage everyone who's watching it to reach out to Dale and to start building with Dale. She's not going to do it for you. She's not going to make your own, Rosh Chodesh group for you, but she's going to give you the tools in order for you to learn how to fish and for you to learn how to do it for yourself and inspire you to be just like Queen Esther and just like Vashti, and to do something because you were born for this moment.
Beautiful. And Dale's perfect for this responsibility. She is the master collaborator and facilitator, and a person that creates incredible belonging. So I can't wait to see what emerges from her participation. And thank you for your perseverance in us finding somebody to participate. So I'm really grateful for that.
We're here for it. And it's not a light switch. It's not going to all of a sudden happen. There's going to be 100 well circles in Beth Sholom, but maybe in 5 years, there really will be.
Fabulous. All right, Sarah. So here's how this walk ends for now. I just have a few questions that I ask each person, and fast responses if you can. And are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, first one. Besides family and friends, which is kind of comes with any walk, let's say the grand walk, what are 5 things that you have to have with you on the path when you walk? 5 necessities.
I mean, I need ankle braces because I have so many sports injuries. So I definitely need some ankle supports and some plantar fasciitis insoles. I don't know. That's already 5 things. But I need some good walking shoes and support there. I need water. I need Miriam to help me bring water wherever I go. What else do I need? I need other people to keep talking with me, not just with my family, but people to inspire ideas, and to flip things on its head and to question and to poke at and to help me build what I think is true. What else do I need to walk? I think I'm going to need some benches also. Like, I need to take some breaks. You can't always be exactly following the path. I mean, you need sometimes you need to sleep. Sometimes you need to digest what you just learned. Maybe even in this call for someone, I brought something up that they need to sit with for a second to really hear me out. So I need some benches to take a break when I feel tired, or overwhelmed or ready to digest something. Those
You got one
that's
more.
5.
I think you might have one more.
Snacks.
Snacks.
I
What
think I
snack?
actually
What's
heard
your snack?
Marcella say this a couple of weeks ago on the call, but I actually do need snacks.
And what's your favorite snack on the walk?
Like banana peanut butter.
Nice.
Maybe.
Nice.
Yeah.
Powerful ones. Thank you. Okay, and if you could walk the path with anybody, living, past, a future version of some person, who would you like to walk it with?
So this is one of those things where it's like, no surprise here, but I'm going to have like a whole bunch of women with me, like the daughters of Zelophehad. This is a biblical story people might not know, but there's 5 daughters that go to Moses to sort of ask for land, not just one. So I need like a whole crew of people. And in that is definitely Henrietta Zold, who's my hero, who's the founder of Hadassah. And she was the right person at the right time to do something. And her ripple and her legacy is amazing. I mean, it wasn't just her, it was all the people that she built with, but Henrietta Zold's there. Michelle Obama is always with me on there because I love her leadership and I'm so inspired by the way that she has presence and carries herself. And the podcast that she has a whole conversation about community health within women's health. And I think it actually describes the importance of a well circle and what Rosh Chodesh can do in a very secular mentality, where she has a crew of people who meet monthly with her to talk about the real stuff in their life. And that's basically what At the Well's doing. So I would have Henrietta Zold, I would have Michelle Obama, and I definitely would have my 2 great grandmothers, who I'm named for, Sarah, with me.
Wonderful. Last question. What do you see ahead of you on the path?
How far?
As far as you want to look.
I'm honestly just going to be looking into like the next month of Nissan, because we're still living in this time that feels like slightly deranged. We're like have this vibrant life in front of a screen and in our minds, but not actually in our physicality. So I only really want to look very close right now. And I actually just want to be right where we are. So we're in Adar and we're coming to Nissan, and we're coming up with this year-long anniversary of being separate from each other. And I see a celebration of Passover that has brought an unbelievable amount of creativity that will help fuel the Jewish people for so long because of our recounting of the same story and using that as a way to make powerful decisions about how to be a person in the world. So I see Passover, I see Nisan right in front of me, and I see people showing up for each other in a way that they never thought that they would before, because of the circumstances of this moment. Also, in like a year and a half, I see 5 wall circles at the synagogue.
Awesome. I love the ability to see immediate what's next, future what's next. And yeah, again, I just keep kind of coming back to this groundedness that you have managed to create for yourself. And I think that allows for that ability to not look beyond this moment, right? And I just thank you so much for being with me today on this path, on this conversation, for being open, vulnerable, and sharing your story. And this is exactly what Rabbi Ain are hoping our community realizes are all acceptable paths to reach your moment and to reach a spiritual identity that works for you and speaks to you as an individual and as a member of a larger experiment of Judaism.
Thanks for having me. This was super fun. Thanks for inviting me to share my story and hopefully it help inspire something, good or bad. We'll find out in a couple of weeks, but thanks so much for having me. This was fun.
Yeah. And Sarah, I don't know if I even told you that we share this on Friday morning. So I have to end now with my Shabbat little paragraph, but I wanted to just really thank you again. And I actually really long for the day to meet you in person in a space.
I had the joy of running a program at the synagogue years before, and I look forward to having the next one happen. But hopefully with a lot of people who are already building that community and creating that belonging together.
Yeah. I mean, the idea of a warehouse porn party sounds perfect at this moment, really. But
we
so
all need an extremely good dance party.
Let me know where that is and when it happens.
All right. Well, thank you, and Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Please be in touch if there's anything they can do to support anyone in the community.
Thank you. And I just will tell everybody the next People on the Path will be recorded and shared in March. So please keep your eyes and ears open for that. Thanks everyone for joining us. I hope you have the exact Shabbat experience that you want. I encourage you to find your footing and balance the Shabbat and beyond. I encourage you to walk your path with courage, wonder, curiosity, and an open mind, body, and spirit. And Shabbat Shalom to everyone. Thank you for being on the path with us today.